So what I've noticed is there's plenty of tutorials out there on how to start a project in Premiere Pro, but never to the way I like to have my kids do it in my classroom, so that's what I'm going to start doing today. So first thing I need people to do is to create a new folder on your desktop and rename the folder. For my instance, I'm just going to use Test Project. Prior to this, I had downloaded 3 videos that I wanted to use in this project. So I'm just going to place those 3 videos in that test project. And I've also got 2 random pictures that are JPEGs that I also want to include in this project. So I'm going to put those in that test project folder as well as 1 audio file that I downloaded from Epidemic Sound because I have a membership, and I dropped that into the test project folder as well. Then I want you to open up that test project, and again, you could have created these folders in advance, but what I'm going to have you do right now is just create folders for each one of those items. So you create a folder and rename it to video, create a second folder, rename that to pictures, and then create a third folder and rename that to music or audio. And then I want you to place those corresponding files in those folders. The more organized you are when you're doing a Premiere project, the easier it is going to be to actually complete your project, to work on your project. And this doesn't mean you can't add things to your projects at a later time. It just means that before you start your project, you should have an idea as to what you're going to be including in it. So you can see after you have the folders created, and again, start the first one on the desktop and then call it test project, and then the 3 folders within the test project are going to be your music, your pictures, and your video. And inside of each of those folders you can see what is now contained in that. That's going to make it easy for you when you do your project. So if we open up Premiere Pro, so I have Premiere Pro located on what's called my dock on the bottom of my screen. I'm using a Mac computer, an Apple Mac computer. So if you have a PC, you can also if you have Premiere Pro, you can right click on it, pin it to the taskbar across the bottom. That way you don't have to go and search for it in your applications, especially if it's something that you use all the time. So anyway, when Premiere Pro opens up, you get this window. You can see that I have some recently open projects that I've been working on. What you want to do is click on the New Project tab on the left-hand side. Now when you click on New Project, it's going to open up a window and it's going to ask you, what do you want to name your project, where do you want to save your project, and any other specific information that you want to format your project. Once that window is open, at the top where it says name, you're going to highlight that untitled and type in the name of whatever your project is you're working on. For me, it's going to be test project. And then just below that it says location. This is easy to overlook because it's not a white window, but it tells me where the last project that is that I have worked on is saved. If you click on the little arrow, it'll show you recent areas that you can put it in, but what I want you to click on is the Browse tab on the far right hand side, the Browse button. And when you click on that, it basically opens up a browser window to your entire computer. When that window opens up, I would navigate to the desktop using the windows on the left, and then find the folder that you created. For our instance, it was called Test Project. So I'm going to open the Test Project folder. Up at the top, it's going to tell me Test Project. The 3 folders that are located in your project are listed below. Then you click Choose, and you can verify that you have the correct folder by looking at that address list at the top. Then you don't need to change anything else. Just click on OK and it will create your new project. This window is where you're going to be doing all of your work. So at the top left hand corner, that's kind of like your preview area, media area. The right hand corner is where you're going to be looking at video that you're currently working on down in your sequence down on the bottom right. The bottom left panel is where all of your media is going to be stored. So there's a tab called Project, the Test Project. If you double click in that little box, it's going to go and allow you to import items. You can also go down to File and then up to Import, and then find your folder where you have your test project. In that folder, you'll note that there is now a new purple icon called Test Project PRPROJ. That is where all the data files are stored for Adobe Premiere. You'll see that up in the top it says test project, and then the 3 folders you created are down below. For us it's music, audio, pictures, and video. We want to import the 3 blue folders and not the purple test project folder. At that point you click import, and it's going to drop those 3 folders, which Adobe Premiere calls bins, down into that media area in the bottom left hand corner. And you'll see they have little arrows next to them. You'll be able to open those arrows and see what's inside of each one of those folders. When I open the pictures one, you see that there's pictures in there. Notice what the icons look like when you open those folders. The video has both a little purple icon and a green icon overlaid it, indicating that there's both video and audio. Again, the pictures just has the white icon. It looks like a little graphic design thing. But when you go into the music file, you'll see that it only has that green box audio wave, which indicates that it only has music. There's nothing on the timeline or sequence over on the right hand side right now, and it has no name. You can tell that by that. So if I just open up my video tab, my video bin, and drag one of the video files over to my sequence area or timeline, it's going to automatically format my sequence for that video clip. At that point, I can technically click on that clip and just delete it. Right now it just clicked on video layer only and not the video in the audio layer. And that was because that sync button wasn't selected, wasn't blue. So if I were to look at my sequence settings, you can tell what it's set up as right now. And I'm not going to touch anything, I'm just going to leave it as is. But it tells me what the aspect ratio is and things like that. And that's based dependently upon whatever that very first clip you put in your project is. You also notice it now created a new looking icon with the name of that video file, which we're going to have to change. But I don't like the fact that it's in the video folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this video folder so you can see that you can open it up in an entirely its own window by double clicking on it. And then you can also go further by double clicking in the tab across the top that indicates what we're in for the video of the project. You double click on it, it opens up full screen so you can see all of the items if there was a whole big list of them, as well as many of the details. Now I can just click over on the project tab, open up this video tab, and I want to move that out. So all I have to do is click on it and drag it down to the bottom, and it separates it from all of my video files. It will keep it out of that folder. And just to stay organized again, I'm going to rename this so that I know it's an actual sequence to my test project. So if I close my video folder, you'll see that it will stay outside of that. It's all on its own. You don't ever want to be importing that again on accident or deleting it or renaming it. So I like to keep it outside. Close that tab by double clicking on it, and you get back into that window that you're at for editing. We're going to just start a project. I'm going to drag one of my video files over to the timeline, and it drops it on. You've got a video and an audio layer. I'm going to take one of my pictures, and if I double click on it, it shows up in the panel up above. So it gives you a preview of what that image is before you look at it. So I'm just going to drag one of the images over to the right hand side so that I can see it in my project. Grab the second image. I'm going to do the same thing, just drop that onto the timeline. And you'll notice that they look different. One of them takes up the full entire screen. The other one has a black border around it. The image wasn't great. It also had a white border around it. So I just want to be able to take a look at that one image and say, what can I do with that? Can I edit this at all? And you can, as long as your playhead, which is this blue line that goes over whatever clip you are on your timeline or sequence, and you double click on the image that's below it, it shows you the information about that clip in the upper left hand corner, where you can position it, scale it, move it left, right, you can rotate it, make it opaque, whatever the case may be. You just have to make sure that you have your playhead over that clip so that you can preview it on the right hand corner. So I can take the scale of it and just click and drag that scale left and right or up and down, and it's going to alter the size of that image in that frame on the right. Wherever I set it to or leave it at, that's where it's going to show up in my project as. So I got rid of that white bar across the bottom, but I don't like that it has a white bar and those black bars as well. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the page. So I can't see all of the tabs at the bottom, so I'm going to stretch that panel out at the bottom, and I'm looking for the little piece of paper with a corner folded over them, and it says new items. So there's a variety of different things in there, but what we're looking for is a color mat. I want to create a custom color mat, so I'm going to click on color mat. It tells me, okay, this is the size of it. Just click OK, and now you can pick any color you want to have for this color mat. Okay, if I clicked on white down in the bottom corner, it's going to do white. But what I'm going to do, because I'm not sure if it's exactly white, is I'm going to click on the little eyedropper, and then I'm going to click in an area in the screen, and you'll notice that it will pick up the color of wherever you click your mouse pointer on and make it that color. If you want to change that color, you click on the eyedropper again, you click on it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that white band on the right hand side of that image using the eyedropper to ensure that I have the correct white. It might be slightly off from perfect white, it might be a gray white. So you click on it, you click OK, and then you rename that panel to white, click OK, and it drops it into your project panel on the left hand side. I'm moving it into pictures just to stay organized. So that if you take that white and drag it over to your project, you're going to notice that it's now a big white screen, which is great, but now I can't see the image. Why? Because the image is actually below or underneath the white square. So if I take the image and drag it up and put it on top of the white square, I now have the white background in the background and the picture on top of it. So it acts like overlays. You can reposition them on your timeline wherever you want, but just keep in mind that whatever is on top is going to be the thing that you see. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to point out is wherever your playhead is on the timeline, on this bar across the bottom with these little dots, if you click and drag them left and right, it will either zoom in or zoom out. So when I zoom in, I can see more specifically about where my picture is on my timeline and that white box that I put underneath. If for some reason I move my picture slightly off, you'll see that it overlays that video clip underneath and then goes over to the white, and then I just have white, and then it goes to the next picture. So this is a good way to identify, do I have things lined up correctly? So I'm going to zoom back out by dragging that out to the right, and now also I can drag that whole bar left and right, which moves me along the timeline left and right. I'll click my playhead at the beginning of the project and zoom out a little bit so I can see the entire timeline. I can also readjust the width of the panel because my screen's kind of small by dragging on the bar on the left hand side. And again, wherever my playhead is on the top of my sequence, it's going to show me what the video or picture is in the preview window in the upper right hand corner. If I wanted to change that color, I could double click on it, just do like we did before, pick the color. And I don't want that. To undo it, I just always hit Control Z on a PC and Command Z on a Mac. That's a very handy keystroke to remember. So that's pretty much the basics of how to get things onto your timeline. There's a lot more to it, but that's how you get things onto your timeline and position them there and get them organized. From there, we'll start to go into how to actually edit those clips, make them shorter, slow them down, reverse their speed, in addition to being able to adjust the volume of the video clips, adjust the volume of the audio clips, and discuss the value of using what's called ducking in audio.